What up, guys? This is Casey's Raw again. This is part 17 of consoles, games, and stories from my life. Today, I'm taking the suggestion from the Rose is the Atari Jaguar. Um, back in it was I probably had this for like 4 or 5 years now as well. Uh, there was a there was a pawn shop extremely close to uh the shop I was working at, the trailer mechanic shop I was working at, and every once in a while I'll go over there. I mean, good guys, I enjoyed it. The Nazareth Exchange, awesome place. Always have great selection of video games. And I picked one day. I picked up the Jaguar, and I enjoyed it. It's not as bad as what people says, but I do agree with the notion. I honestly do not think this is not a 64-bit system. Yeah, there is two 32-bit chips in there, the Tom and Jerry chips, but just because you add them, don't to me doesn't mean you're 64 bits. And a lot of the games really didn't take the advantage of the system as well. I mean, there's a bunch of 16-bit games that was ported to the system. Only very few games in the Atari actually uh, made it look at least close to 64, more bits, but it looks like more like 32 bits. But I enjoyed it. The I think the controller gets a little bit of flack. It's not as bad as people says. I mean, it's more comfortable than the 64 controller. But yeah, I enjoyed it actually. It's kind of cool looking system. Um, this actually the Jaguar has such a weird history. After the Atari gave up the hardware business, the console business, they sold a bunch of their uh, liquidating a lot of bunch of stuff, and one of them was the shell of the Jaguar. And what's funny, uh, someone bought it, and they used the shell as a dentist equipment. I believe they use it to X-ray your teeth and stuff like that. So it's funny to look it up. And then recently, in the last few years, uh, there's a guy who bought the molds of the Jaguar casing and tried to bring back the shell was supposed to be was becoming the Coleco Chameleon, and before that it was called the I think the Retro Gaming System or something like that. But that system was going to be a fake. I mean that Coleco Chameleon was just such a farce. It was crazy about that story. I suggest you guys look it up. Pat the NES Punk did a great stories about it. So I suggest you guys look at him for that. So let me before I show you some of the games, I'm gonna pull out some one of the controllers and you take a look at it. How weird looking it is. Enter to one of my boxes of controllers is the Nintendo box. I should go through, just have an idea. I should go through a bunch of controllers that are weird as hell. And I found it. Just give me a second and I'll have it revealed better. Here it is. It all in its infamous glory. The D-pad's not that bad. I wish it sticked up a little bit better because it's nothing. It's a little less quality than the Sega Genesis. Uh, but they kind of did a mix between old school and more modern look. I mean, the touch, these dial pad right here, they kind of took that from the era of the ColecoVision and the Intellivision and the Atari 5200 era, and they just added in. What do, you put like a little piece of plastic, little piece of a sheet in there, and it would tell you what button does what. But there was a pro version where it had 3 more buttons, and I think also trigger buttons. But to me, it's not that bad. I mean, it has grips on the back. So to me, I'm like, it's not that bad actually. Where people are like, oh, this controller is horrible. Actually, I would say this is probably the best version of Atari controller that is out there. Probably minus the European Atari 7800 controller that pretty much looks like a NES controller, but I would say this is probably the best Atari controller out there right now. So let's look at the games. Here we're at the Atari Jaguar games. Like I said before, like the N64 games, they do not come with these end labels. I had to buy these end labels. To me, they're well worth it. You can honestly easily see what they are. I mean, same thing with the Sega Master System games. They didn't come with those. The 32X games didn't come with those end labels. To me, these well worth the money. And let's look at the first one. Aliens vs. Predator, one of the best games on there. You really want to play as the Marine than either Alien or Predator. Tempest 2000 is a hell of a game. I enjoyed that game. I enjoyed playing Doom on there. I hadn't played a couple of these Atari games. I should give them, like that Trevor McFur and the Crescent Galaxy. And tried that War. I love my theme park game. I love theme park. Let's see. This is snowboarding game. I hadn't played that. Zool 2. That's a good game. I really enjoyed Wolfenstein 3D. Dragon, the Bruce Lee game. This Mutant Penguins game is actually the most weird looking game of the system. It's really weird game. And oh yeah, look at the system. This is the second console that has like some kind of grip for pulling the cartridge out. It has a bar, while the Odyssey 2 has a handle. So I believe I played Brutal Sports Football. Cybermorph is not as bad as a game, but Star Fox looks way better, and Star Fox is a 16-bit game, while this is supposedly a 64-bit game. I believe I played Defender 2000. Bugsby, I like that version of Bugsby. This version of Checkered Flag, to me, let me pull this game out from the Sega. Virtual Racing. This one and the 32X version is actually better if you ask me. Then a couple games. Raiden is not as good. Super Burnout is good. Consuming Ninja. Well, let me tell you about this game. This game is a horrible fighting game. They try to rip off Mortal Kombat, and they did a shit time doing it. Um, I believe it was actually more bloodier than Mortal Kombat, but it's more ridiculous. Um, Double Dragon 5 is a fighter game. It's not like the normal Double Dragon games. This is a fighting game. Um, let's see which games actually use the full capacity. I would say Aliens vs Predator did. I'd say Tempest. Doom, I'm not sure. I mean, Doom was on Super Nintendo and on the 32X, so I guess you could say that. I know Theme Park is a 16-bit game. Zool 2 is a 16-bit game. Wolfenstein 3D is definitely not 64 or 32-bit game. I would also say the same thing about Mutant Penguins and Brutal Football. Cybermorph, definitely not 64-bit. Maybe 32, but definitely not 64. Same thing with Bugsy. That's a 16-bit game. You can probably kind of say that for Checkered Flag. Raiden, I believe that's more of a 16-bit game. Same. Consuming Ninja, same thing. As well, Double Dragon 5. So, to me, I enjoyed the Jaguar, but I think it's just a 32-bit system. And a lot of the games that came out, they didn't really utilize the system as they could, except several games. I mean, well, during that time, you still had the Sega Genesis doing well. You had the Super Nintendo relevant at that time, so I see why a bunch of these 16-bit games go to the system. I mean, it's kind of happening now. I mean, there's a bunch of these games going to the Switch and the PS4 and Xbox One are not uh, pushing the systems to the max. They're just, I can understand a little bit, but I felt the Jaguar didn't get a full chance. It died because the 64, the Nintendo 64, you got the PlayStation, you got the Sega Saturn, and it was just, with those three, it destroyed the Jaguar. So, and I believe that is it. I really don't think anything much I could say. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed the Jaguar. So, if you guys want to try it, I'd say give it a shot. So, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later. Bye.